Hello, everyone. My name is Maria. I'm a researcher, Egyptian Essene therapist, relational coach, and founder of psychoenergetic work. And this video is part of my researches, especially into energy work and the connection between the origin of energy work and the Essene. This video is based on personal research, intuitive insight, and a spiritual perspective on the Essene tradition. Please receive this video as a contribution from my heart. Before we dive into today's journey, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. Let's begin. Among the various Jewish groups of the Hellenistic Roman era, the Essenes were perhaps the most well-known today. This fame is largely due to the groundbreaking discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran in 1947. Even in antiquity, the Essenes attracted considerable attention, and three prominent writers documented them: Philo of Alexandria, Flavius Josephus, and Pliny the Elder. These classical references provide much of what we know about Essene life, practices, and beliefs. Scholars remain divided on the exact origins of the Essenes and the meaning of their name. The term may be linked to various interpretations, including pure, bathers, silent ones, or pious. And so there are also other translations from Hebrew and Aramaic. They most likely emerged around the mid-2nd century BCE during the Maccabean period, as there are no earlier references to them before the Hasmonean dynasty. The Essenes led isolated communal lives structured similarly to monastic orders. They deliberately withdrew from broader society, forming secluded settlements. According to Josephus, they were protected by Herod the Great, and by the time of Jesus, their numbers exceeded 4,000 members, living across various regions. Of these, around 150 resides in Qumran, a site that will later gain significance due to the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Essene settlement at Qumran met a violent end in 68 CE during the Jewish-Roman War, a time of immense upheaval that also led to the destruction of Jerusalem. Their involvement in the revolts likely provoked Roman retaliation. Before their demise, the Essenes hid their extensive library in nearby caves, a decision that preserved their writing for millennia. Some survivors are believed to have joined the Zealots at Masada, sharing in their tragic end. This connection is supported by the 1963 discovery at Masada of a fragment from Songs for the Sabbath Sacrifice, also found in Cave 4 at Qumran. Josephus refers to the Essenes in multiple passages, offering vivid glimpse into their beliefs and practices. Jewish war, antiquities, and mentions include a story about the Essenes, Judas of the Essenes, and a Essene named Manimus. He generally uses the Greek term Essaios, commonly interpreted as Essene. Philo, on the other hand, uses Essaioi while acknowledging that this Greek rendering, often translated as holy, is likely inaccurate. In the 1st century CE, Josephus identifies the Essene as one of the four main Jewish sects of the period. Alongside the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Zealots, the Essenes emerged during the Second Temple period, about 2nd century BCE to the 1st century CE. A time of great diversity in Jewish thought. They followed the Torah, observed the Sabbath, practiced ritual purity, and believed in the coming of a Messiah, all of which are deeply rooted in Jewish traditions. They separated themselves from mainstream Jewish society, likely because they viewed the temple priesthood in Jerusalem as corrupt. They lived in ascetic communal communities, the most famous being Qumran near the Dead Sea. They had strict rules on purity, celibacy, in some branches, shared possessions, and daily immersions in water. The Essenes are the best described as an alternative or mystical branch of Judaism, possibly influenced by older or parallel mystical traditions like Egyptians or Zoroastrian thought. Some later spiritual traditions, including some New Age or esoteric interpretations, view the Essenes as proto-Christian or as keepers of universal wisdom. But these views are modern interpretations not supported by all historians. The Essenes may have been a Jewish sect, but they represented a radical and mystical fringe within Judaism, with unique beliefs and practices that set them apart from the mainstream. Over the years, the Essenes have become the subjects of much esoteric speculation. Ahmed Osman, out of Egypt, controversiality suggested that the Essene means follower of Jesus, Esa, a theory largely dismissed due to its historical assumptions about the origins of Christianity. Gabriele Boccaccini, in his recent scholarship, affirms that no definitive etymology has been established for the term Essene. G.I. Gurdjieff, in Beelzebub's Tales to his Grandson, described the Essenes as Jesus' most faithful and true followers, a mystical interpretation not supported by mainstream historians. According to Josephus, the Essenes lived not in one city, but were present in great numbers in every city. Philo notes that more than 4,000 Essenes lived in Palestinian Syria, specifically in many cities of Judea and in many villages gathered into large communities. Many modern scholars and archaeologists identify Qumran, located on a plateau in the Judean desert along the Dead Sea, as a key Essene settlement. Pliny's account on the western shore of the Dead Sea above the city of Engedi is often used to support this claim, for conclusive archaeological proof remains elusive. Early Christian sources, particularly Church Father Epiphanius, writing in the 4th century CE, offer insight into two distinct sects within the Essene movement, the Nazarenes and the Ossaeans. In his work, Epiphanius suggests that these groups may have preceded or emerged independently from the later followers of the Essene prophet Elxai. Epiphanius describes the Nazarenes as follows. The Nazarenes were Jewish by origin, originally from Gileadites, with the first followers of Yeshua, fled after the martyrdom of James, Jesus' brother. Passionites and Transjordan recognized Moses and believed he received the laws, but no our law, other laws. Thus, they were Jewish who observed all Jewish customs, but they did not offer sacrifices or eat meat. They considered eating meat or making sacrifices a sacrilege. They claimed that our books were false, and that none of the customs they recorded were instituted by the forefathers. This passage highlights a radical divergence in theological interpretation. While maintaining many traditional Jewish practices, the Nazarenes rejected the ritual sacrifice system and adopted a vegetarian or plant-based lifestyle, which they deemed more aligned with spiritual purity. They also challenged the legitimacy of mainstream scriptural text, suggesting an alternative lineage of spiritual knowledge. Epiphanius continues in Panarian. After the Nazarenes came another sect closely related to them, called the Ossaeans. These were Jews, like the former, from Nabatea, Iturea, Moabites, and Arielis, the land beyond the basin known in the scriptures of the Salt Sea. Though different from the other 6 sects, they separated only because they forbade the use of the books of Moses like the Nazarenes did. Like the Nazarenes, the Ossaeans distanced themselves from the Mosaic text. Their geographic region surrounding the Dead Sea suggests potential proximity to Qumran, reinforcing speculation by some modern scholars that the Ossaeans may have comprised part of the celibate Essene community associated with the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus adds another layer of complexity. In Jewish War, he writes, "Besides this, there is another order of Essenes who share the same laws and customs but differ from their view of marriage." This passage implies that not all Essenes were celibate. Some followed the same strict codes but embraced marriage and family life, possibly linking them more closely to the Nazarenes, who are traditionally associated with Mount Carmel in Upper Galilee, an area also rich in early Christian mysticism. Both Joseph and Philo, who uses the term Essaioi, describe the celibate lifestyle of the Essenes, Their communal living, rejection of materialism, and focus on inner purity evoke comparison to Buddhist monasticism and later Christian ascetic traditions. However, as Josephus notes in War II, a subsex of the Essene did marry, challenging the common assumption that celibacy was an universal requirement. The Essenes upheld a disciplined and spiritually rigorous way of life. Their values and costumes included collective ownership of property, obedience to a communal leader, rejection of animal sacrifices and avoidance of oaths, emotional self-discipline and dedication to peace, abolition of slavery and emphasis on mutual service, simple, possibly vegetarian diets focused on bread, fruits, and wild plants. Initiates underwent a 3-year probationary period after which they swore an oath to live virtuously and uphold moral purity, refrain from unlawful acts, and maintain communal integrity. Preserve the Book of the Essenes and remember the name of the angels. Their theology were deeply spiritual, emphasizing the immortality of the soul and reincarnation-like beliefs, where rigid souls would return or ascend to divine realms. The mysterious lost years of Jesus' life, the period between his adolescence and public ministry, have led some scholars to propose that he may have lived among the Essenes. Ernest Renan and others hypothesize that Jesus may have studied their teachings, adopted their asceticism, or at least been influenced by their values. His celibacy and mystical insights, moral teachings echo Essene ideals. There is also the possibility that John the Baptist, who lived an austere life in the wilderness and preached purification and repentance, was part of the Essene community or influenced by them, providing a likely channel through which Jesus could have encountered their doctrines. Many scholars believe the Essenes were the authors and caretakers of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which contain Hebrew scriptures and sectarian texts reflecting Essene theology and law. Qumran is an archaeological site located on the western shore of the Dead Sea, in what is today the West Bank near the ruins of ancient Jericho. The settlement was constructed between 150 BCE and 130 BCE and went through several stages of development before being destroyed by the Roman general Titus in 68 CE. In 1947, Qumran suddenly became a global point of interest with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. These were uncovered near the ruins of what scholars identified as a monastery-like structure, believed to have been inhabited by the Essenes. The discovery of the Great Isaiah Scroll led archaeologists to re-evaluate the significance of the site. It quickly became clear that the buildings once belonged to a deeply religious Jewish community. It was also assumed that this group was responsible for hiding the scrolls in nearby caves, possibly to protect them from destruction during periods of conflict. Later in 1947, 2 Palestinian shepherds stumbled upon ancient clay jars hidden in the surrounding caves. Inside, they found papyrus scrolls and pottery shards, some sealed to preserve the contents. These manuscripts include both biblical texts and apocryphal writings, such as the Book of Enoch and the War Scroll, texts not included in the traditional Hebrew Bible. Scholars believe these were hidden before the community fled or was destroyed during the Roman siege in 60 CE, although conflict in the region began earlier with the arrival of Pompey in Jerusalem in 63 BCE. Between 1947 and 1956, archaeologists recovered approximately 900 scrolls from 12 different caves around Qumran. Most were written on parchment, while some were on papyrus. Alongside these texts, the excavation revealed ritual baths, a cemetery, dining and meeting halls, and the ruins of what is considered by some scholars to be a scriptorium, a place where scribes would have copied religious manuscripts. They also found ceramic dishes, coins, and even a watchtower, suggesting a well-organized and disciplined community. Most scholars today agree that Qumran was a religious center for the Essenes. The layout of the site and the content of the scrolls reflect a highly spiritual communal life. The scrolls were primarily written in Hebrew, though many were in Aramaic, a language widely spoken in Judea during the Second Temple period, and a few in Greek. These manuscripts span from 150 BCE to 70 CE, reflecting diverse literary, religious, and legal traditions of Judaism at that time. The scrolls are generally divided into three major categories. Biblical manuscripts. These include copies of Hebrew Bible texts like Genesis, Deuteronomy, and Isaiah, many of which are nearly identical to the later Esoteric text. Apocryphal and pseudepigraphic text. These include books not found in the Bible but widely read in the Second Temple period, such as Jubilees, Tobit, Sirach, and non-canonical Psalms. Sectarian manuscripts. These are unique to the community and include writings like the Community Rules, the War Scroll, the Commentary of Habakkuk, and the Rule of the Blessing, documents that reveal the group's theology, organization, and eschatological worldview. Scholars have used paleography, the study of ancient handwriting, and radiocarbon dating to determine the age of the scrolls. They have identified three main paleographic periods: Archaic, 250–150 BCE, Hasmonean, 150–30 BCE, Herodian, 30 BCE, 68–70 CE. Some scrolls have been dated even earlier through mass spectrometry, including 4Q 534, dated to 388–353 BCE, 4Q 365, dated to 339–324 BCE. These findings show that some scrolls may have predated the community itself, possibly carried and preserved over generations before being hidden in the Qumran caves. And here you can find a few references. We are now going to explore their connection to the Egyptian traditions, the role of Moses, healing centers, bedsides, and the holistic practices. The mystical and healing wisdom of the Essenes find its roots in much older traditions, particularly those of ancient Egypt. According to Daniel Meroir, the Egyptians once ruled much of the Mediterranean basin, including the region later known as Palestine. Near present-day Haifa, established the monastery of Mount Carmel, a significant spiritual and healing center. Daniel describes it as a kind of embassy for the Egyptian initiatory and therapeutic knowledge on the Mediterranean shores. At that time, the territory that would later be inhabited by the Israelites was still under Egyptian dominion. This political and cultural context explained why the Essenes, regarded as spiritual heirs of Egyptian healers priests, continue the legacy of therapeutic knowledge in the region. One of the key figures in this transmission of wisdom was Moses, who is believed to have played a central role in carrying Egyptian spiritual scientific knowledge to the Jewish people. Among these, the Essenes stood out as a small but deep knowledgeable group, presenting ancient teachings related to health, the body, and energetic laws. By the time of Jesus, their reputation as powerful healers was well established. The Essenes were known not only for their spiritual depths, but also for establishing healing networks. These included dispensaries and clinics, often built underground or inside caves, strategically placed across ancient Palestine. These centers were called bedsides, functioning as free clinics or working on the basis of exchange of services, a forerunner to integrative community healthcare models. Some bedsides even served as maternity centers, reinforcing the community's focus on birth, renewal, and care. The Essenes' understanding of the body went beyond physical anatomy. They possessed an occult knowledge of subtle energy systems, laws they believed governed both body and spirit. The Essenes, both men and women, were deeply physically attuned, often described as receiving divine cosmic teaching from the invisible, transmitted through spiritual means. These white-robed healers were distinguishable not only by their garments, but by their ability to help people whom no other treatment could aid. Though of Jewish origin, they lived primarily in what is now modern-day Israel and Palestine. Their lifestyle was marked by simplicity, discipline, and compassion. In their small, harmonious villages, they practiced humble trades, carpentry, pottery, and blacksmithing, but would abandon all work if they were called to care for the sick. Their spiritual hygiene was exemplary. They bathed each time they transitioned between tasks, changed garments frequently, and observed regular cycles of prayers and meditation. Through deep self-awareness, they learned to silence the ego and allow soul energies to flow, essential for their healing work. They also understood human anatomy intuitively and made use of vegetable oils, natural essences, and even therapeutic sound frequencies, which they believe could bring about physiological shifts. Entirely vegetarian, they cultivate their food with care, abstain from alcohol, and upheld meditation as vital spiritual nourishment. While many Essenes remained settled, others led nomadic lives, traveling across regions to establish mobile bedsides, open-air healing tents, or small shelters. These were welcoming to all, including society's outcasts. With genuine charity, they provided food, rest, and care until patients were well enough to contribute or continue their journey. In their philosophy, everyone was considered a brother or a sister. To support their centers, they offer handmade goods and herbal remedies to wealthier individuals, receiving donations or trades in return. This discreet form of bartering allowed them to maintain clean, peaceful centers while avoiding interference from local authorities. Their healing practices addressed a wide range of illness, including both physical and psychosomatic conditions. Moreover, the Essenes often extended their care to the patient's household, aiming to restore relational and emotional harmony. And in cases where healing was no longer possible, they offered dignified, peaceful support for end-of-life transitions, a holistic understanding of health, death, and the soul's journey. The Essenes were far more than ancient herbalists or faith healers. They were guardians of a profound spiritual and energetic science. Their understanding of the human being encompasses physical, energetic, emotional, and spiritual dimensions, all viewed through a lens of deep reverence for life. Each person to them was a sacred manifestation of divine creation, and thus treated as a brother or sister within the larger unity of existence. Their healing approach went beyond traditional medicine, even though they were thoroughly trained in its principles. They practice with humility, combining ancient Egyptian therapeutic knowledge, refined intuition, and a compassionate presence that allowed healing to occur on multiple levels. One of the most well-known Essene figures is Jesus, believed to have been raised within this tradition. Through his teachings and acts, he embodied the highest expression of divine healing and love, demonstrating that self-love is the root of loving others. Love your neighbors as yourself. In our time, modern Essene therapies are being preserved and practiced by a few dedicated individuals who bring this ancient knowledge into contemporary form, updated when necessary, but still true to its original spirit. Importantly, not all Essenes were full-time healers. Healing arts were part of everyone's formation, but no one was forced into a path. Education was offered, never imposed, emphasizing spiritual freedom and personal calling. From early childhood, Essene students were taught through a blend of theory and practice. They had to learn human anatomy and the energetic body, understanding physical and subtle energy systems. They had to study ancient sacred texts, including Egyptian, Hebrew, and cosmic teachings. They meditate, pray, and are aligned spiritually to allow inner connection and healing. And they also developed spiritual faculties such as clairvoyance, clairaudience, and energetic sensitivity. Their learning culminated in apprenticeship with seasoned Essene masters who guided them through the subtle and complex nuances of healing, including the spiritual causes of disease and the transmission of healing through presence, sound, and intention. They were also trained in vocal techniques, using specific frequencies and chants to harmonize energy fields and activate internal healing responses. Illness to them was not merely a malfunction, it was a disharmony to be realigned through compassion, knowledge, and energy. In modern terms, we might call them white magicians, those who use spiritual forces for good, healing, and enlightenment. Their practice of white magic was grounded in a universal law of love and service, meant to elevate humanity as a whole. According to some interpretation of ancient text, even the free magi, those wise men who visited Jesus at his birth, were Essene masters, offering homage to a soul they recognize as the destined healer of humanity. Some practitioners had areas of deep specialization. Mary Magdalene, for instance, was known as an expert in preparing healing oils using myrrh, and spikenard for both physical and spiritual anointing. Their ancestral roots go back to ancient Egypt, where they inherited teaching from the masters of the Purple Veil, a lineage of mystical healers. They were also able to sense subtle energetic patterns, identifying illness or imbalances long before symptoms appeared. Their diagnoses were precise, and treatments sometimes carried out in groups could lead to full recovery in just hours. Their group healing were amplified by intentional breath, synchronized energy flow, and deep soul connection, often reaching unconscious material far beyond what modern hypnotherapy touches. Importantly, the Essenes believed that healing the individual also meant healing the household. They offered spiritual guidance to family members, helping to restore peace, cooperation, and energetic flow within homes. The Essenes were renewed not just for their healing methods, but for how they healed by truly listening. Their profound ability to be fully present with another being was a gift cultivated through years of inner spiritual practice. The Essenes made space for stillness and attunement. They were sometimes called the white monks, not only because of their flowing white robes, but because of their peace and gentleness they emanated from their presence. This calm could be felt through their aura, the radiant field of subtle energy that surrounds all living beings. The Essenes were able to read the aura, a luminous halo of prana, life force, to perceive imbalances, emotional wounds, and even spiritual lessons connected to past and future incarnation. To them, the aura was not symbolic but diagnostic, a real-time energy map that revealed the soul's evolution. In the Essene understanding, reincarnation was not speculative philosophy but a divine law of cosmic evolution. Life was viewed as a sacred cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, intended to purify the soul and lead it towards higher states of consciousness, toward becoming a peaceful, luminous, and divinely aligned being. They linked their soul's journey to spirals or ascending curves, where each incarnation formed part of an ongoing transformation. In modern terms, this can be imagined as a conical helix. Each life experience elevates the soul farther towards illumination, a state beyond ignorance, free from attachment to materialism and egoic desires. The Essene role as healers were more than physical, it was initiatory. They were aware that true healing could only occur when a person reconnected with the universal laws of energy, love, and evolution. By helping individuals understand these cosmic laws, the Essenes acted as humble channels, never claiming personal power, but recognizing themselves as instruments of the Creator's love. Their therapies were rooted in multisensory healing, integrating all dimensions of human perception. A sacred and less-known aspect of the Essene practice was the use of the Milky Voice, a vibrational vocal technique believed to echo the original sound of creation. They use sound and the Milky Voice or the Source Voice as a form of healing. The Milky Voice is a vocal practice of Essene origin dating back approximately 2,000 years. The Essenes' monastic Jewish communities possessed ancient spiritual knowledge, some of which is believed to have been passed down from Atlantis. They used the Milky Voice as a tool for healing and regeneration, fully aware of the creative and destructive power of sound. The Essenes, many of whom trained in Egyptian temples, especially in the temples of Hathor, Dendera, and Isis, where priestesses and temple singers used harmonic sound for spiritual activation and healing. These temples were not just architectural wonders, they were living vibrational portals. This gentle vocal milk, as it was sometimes called, nourished the soul, softened the trauma held in the cells, and opened spiritual channels. Its effects were deeply somatic and etheric. Their voices were trained with precision through specific notes that could dissolve energetic blocks and restore prana flow in the nadis, the subtle energy channels that align with the nervous system, similar to concepts found in Ayurveda and yogic traditions. The Essenes and Egyptians inherited this sacred knowledge. They recognized that the human voice, when tuned to the frequency of love and truth, could awaken dormant codes in the body and aura, facilitating memory, healing, and soul embodiment. Behind the beauty of song, or the skill of speech, lay the vibration, a force that moved everything. In summary, the Essenes' Milky Voice can be seen as an evolution of the source voice of the Egyptian healers. both practices recognizing the power of sound as a mean for healing and spiritual connection. These traditions highlight the importance of sonic vibration in inner transformation and in pursuit of harmony with the universe. Other elements that were used within the healing practices are colored veils and pigmented ointments were placed over key energy centers or chakras to realign vibrational harmony. Each hue carried a frequency that influenced body, mind, and spirit. The use of aromas, essences from flowers, herbs, and raisins like frankincense and myrrh were consecrated and used to balance the vital body, uplift mood, and purify energetic fields. Ointment were placed on the body to activate and balance the chakras and energy points, and these ointments or balsam were consecrated through specific rituals. The use of touch, with the laying on of hands, regenerative massage, and the application of oils and specific hands positions that could clear energetic congestions and foster deeper emotional release. Taste, food also was used as medicine. The Essenes prepared healing meals tailored to the individual, understanding how nutrition influenced not just the body but the soul's receptivity to healing. And the use of saliva in spiritual and esoteric contexts, such as among mystics, shamans, or groups like the Essenes, saliva might be seen not only as a physical substance, but as a carrier of intention, energy, or spirit, especially when combined with prayer, touch, or breath. This multisensory approach, what we might now call integrative or holistic therapy, was light years ahead of its time. The Essene offered guidance for conscious dying, recognizing when the soul had completed its journey in the body. When healing was no longer possible and death was near, the Essenes continued their service. They accompanied the dying with great reverences, recognizing that peace in death was as important as healing in life. They supported families emotionally and spiritually, reduced suffering, and offered post-care guidance. This sacred passage was never feared, but honored as a return to the source, where the soul could rest and be renewed. While they were very respected in rural communities, in the cities the Essenes often clashed with official medicine. Labeled as charlatans and sometimes banned from practicing, they responded not with defiance, but quietly continuing their work beyond city walls in simple, humble healing houses. Today, the wisdom of the Essene is kept alive through the profound work of many teachers who have revived and restructured Essene practices for the modern age. Through their multi-years training program, students are invited first to heal themselves, cleansing their own fields before offering support to others. "You must be the change you wish to see in the world," said Gandhi, a sentiment the Essene lived by centuries before these words were spoken. We are witnessing a redefinition of what healing truly means. It's no longer just about symptoms management. Healing is remembering who we are, a process of spiritual alignment, emotional liberation, and energetic integrity. Essene-based healing invites us to embrace our multidimensional nature, to reclaim our connection with earth, sun, spirit, and self. This path calls us to heal the wounds of separation, cultivate inner stillness and intuition, live in service to love and consciousness, embody peace, integrity, and sovereignty. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of Essene wisdom. I hope this exploration has inspired you and offered something meaningful to reflect on. If you found this video valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who may feel the same calling. Your support helps keep this sacred knowledge alive and accessible to more seekers around the world. For more content on ancient healing, energy work, and the science of the soul, make sure to hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. With gratitude, Maria.